Hello and welcome to our podcast episode number 22. Political satire takes aim at international conflict and power struggles. I'm Timothy, and as always, here with me, my dear friend Thomas. Tonight, we are going to discuss a film called In the Loop. Be aware, spoilers ahead. The Loop is a 2009 British satirical black comedy film directed by Armando Iannucci about UK Minister for International Development Simon Foster, who unintentionally supports military intervention in the Middle East and is sent to America to gather information. The film satirizes British American politics and the invasion of Iraq, and was nominated for Best Adapted Screenplay at the 82nd Academy Awards. Well, Tom, did you enjoy In the Loop?
Well, Tim, I found it to be quite entertaining, actually. I thought the movie did a great job of satirizing both British and American politics while also providing some very amusing moments. The cast was excellent as well. Everyone brought their A game to this one.
I see. Personally, I found it passable, but not necessarily anything special. Yes, there were some funny moments here and there, but overall, I felt like the movie dragged on a bit too much and could have benefited from tighter editing or pacing. The characters were well written, but they didn't really connect with me emotionally, which made it harder for me to care about what happened in their storylines.
Oh, come now, Tim. You can't expect every movie to be a heartwarming tale of love and loss. Sometimes we need a good laugh at the expense of those in power. And I think that's exactly where In the Loop succeeds. It exposes the absurdity of political machinations while still managing to be quite funny. As for your concerns about the pacing, I felt like the movie moved along fairly well considering how many characters and storylines it had to juggle.
Well, we clearly have different opinions on this one, Tom. Moving on, let's talk about some of the main themes explored in The Loop, namely international conflict and power struggles between various factions within governments. How did you feel these were handled by the film?
I thought the film did an excellent job of highlighting how easily international conflict can be fueled by miscommunication and misunderstandings between different factions within governments, particularly when it comes to matters of war and peace. The character of Simon Foster serves as a sort of innocent pawn in this game, played by his superiors, Malcolm Tucker and Karen Clark, who are both pulling him in different directions for their own agendas. And then you have the Americans, led by Linton Barwick and George Miller, who have their own interests at heart as well. The whole thing feels like a giant game of political chess, where the lives and livelihoods of millions are put on the line simply because these people can't seem to get along or agree on anything.
I see what you mean there. However, I felt like the film didn't really go deep enough into exploring these themes. It seemed more focused on delivering quick-witted one-liners and humorous situations rather than providing any real insight or commentary on the nature of international relations or power dynamics within governments. Yes. There were moments where you could see how characters like Simon Foster were being manipulated by those around him, but these moments weren't fully developed enough for me to feel invested in them, emotionally speaking.
Well now, Tim, I think that was kind of the point. This isn't a movie about providing deep insights into international relations or power dynamics. It's a satire designed to make us laugh at how ridiculous these situations can be, while also pointing out some uncomfortable truths about those in power and their tendency to prioritize personal gain over the greater good. And I think it does that quite effectively through its use of humor without taking itself too seriously or becoming preachy in any way.
Well, I can appreciate your perspective on that, Tom, but personally speaking, I feel like there's a fine line between making a statement about something and simply using it as a vehicle for cheap laughs. And unfortunately, for me at least, In the Loop crossed that line too many times, in my opinion. Don't get me wrong. There were some genuinely funny moments throughout, but overall I felt like they came at the expense of any meaningful commentary on the themes presented by the film itself.
Ah, well, I guess we'll just have to agree to disagree on that one time. But hey, isn't it great how our discussions always manage to spark some interesting debates about movies and their underlying messages? It really goes to show how subjective this whole experience can be, which is why I love watching films with you so much, because we never fail to find something new or thought-provoking in them.
Indeed, Thomas. And speaking of which, let's talk about one aspect of In the Loop that I feel did deserve some praise, and that is its soundtrack. The film features a wide range of songs from various genres, all of which perfectly capture the mood and tone of each scene they accompany. From the upbeat indie rock tracks to the more somber ballads, the music in this movie really stands out as an integral part of its overall effectiveness.
Indeed. I'm a big fan of movies with strong soundtracks, and In the Loop definitely delivers on that front. One particular scene that comes to mind is when Simon Foster is walking through the streets of Washington, D.C., trying to clear his name after being publicly disgraced by Lyndon Barwick. The song playing in the background during this sequence is The Passenger by Iggy Pop, which adds an extra layer of tension and anxiety to the already uncomfortable situation he finds himself in. It's little details like these that really elevate In the Loop from being just another political satire to a truly unique viewing experience.
Yes, I agree with you there, Thomas. The soundtrack really does help drive home some of the film's key themes and emotions. For instance, when Karen Clark is confronted by her husband about her extramarital affair with Malcolm Tucker, the song playing in the background is Pumping by Spinal Tap. Not only does it provide comedic relief during an otherwise tense moment, but also serves as a commentary on how power dynamics can affect relationships both professionally and personally.
That's a great example, Timothy. And speaking of Spinal Tap, I was actually quite surprised to see them featured in the film, considering how much of a cult classic that band is. But it just goes to show you how well-researched Armando Iannucci must have been when it came to selecting songs for In the Loop, because they all work so seamlessly within their respective scenes without feeling out of place or forced. It's a true testament to his attention to detail as a director and screenwriter.
Indeed, Thomas. And lastly, I want to touch upon another aspect of the soundtrack that really stood out for me. Its use of dialogue samples from the film itself during certain scenes. For example, when Simon Foster is meeting with George Miller at his home in Virginia, there's a scene where they discuss their differing opinions on military intervention in the Middle East over dinner while I predict a riot by the Clash plays in the background. Not only does this add another layer of irony to an already satirical scene, but also showcases how well edited and paced each moment is throughout In the Loop.
A very valid point there, Tim. And it just goes back to what we were saying earlier about how important attention to detail can be when crafting a film like this one. It's clear that Armando Iannucci put a lot of thought into every aspect of In the Loop, from its script and direction down to its sound design and editing choices, which is why it remains such an engaging and entertaining viewing experience, even after all these years. Yes, I couldn't agree more, Tom. And speaking of attention to detail, let's talk about the cast of In the Loop for a moment, because they were indeed fantastic in their roles. Starting with Simon Foster, played by Tom Hollander, who does an excellent job portraying this naive yet well-intentioned politician who finds himself caught up in a web of political intrigue. His performance perfectly captures the character's journey from innocence to desperation as he tries to clear his name and maintain some semblance of control over his life.
Indeed, Tom. I thought Tom Hollander was indeed brilliant in this role. He manages to bring both humor and pathos to Simon Foster, making him a truly sympathetic character even when he's at his most inept or bumbling. And then there's Peter Capaldi as Malcolm Tucker. What an incredible performance. His portrayal of him, this foul-mouthed, aggressive spin doctor, is nothing short of iconic. Every time he opens his mouth, you can feel the tension in the room escalate. It's a testament to Capaldi's talent that he manages to make Malcolm Tucker both terrifying and oddly charismatic all at once.
Indeed, Tim. And it's not just those two who shine either. The entire cast brings their A game to this film. From the always reliable Anna Chlumsky as Liza Weld to the hilarious Chris Addison as Toby Wright, each actor seems to embody their respective characters perfectly and deliver their lines with aplomb. This is further evidenced by the fact that In the Loop was nominated for several awards, including Best Adapted Screenplay at the 82nd Academy Awards, which goes to show how well written these roles were in the first place.
And of course, there's James Gandolfini as General George Miller, who adds an extra layer of gravitas to the proceedings with his portrayal of this powerful yet conflicted American military leader. His performance is understated, but incredibly effective. You really feel the weight of his decisions and the burden he carries both personally and professionally. It's a shame that this was one of Gandolfini's final roles before his untimely death in 2013, as it serves as a testament to how talented an actor he truly was.
Indeed, Tim. I couldn't agree more about James Gandolfini's performance in The Loop. He really does add so much depth and nuance to his character that it's easy to forget just how brief his screen time actually is. And speaking of understated performances, let's not forget Mimi Kennedy as Linton Barwick, who delivers some truly hilarious one-liners throughout the film while also managing to maintain an air of menace and manipulation that keeps you guessing about her true intention. She's a real scene stealer in this movie.
Indeed, Tom. I think it's safe to say that In the Loop boasts one of the most talented ensemble casts in recent memory. Each actor brings their unique skill set and charisma to the table, resulting in a film that is not only funny, but also incredibly engaging on an emotional level. And when you factor in the brilliant writing from Armando Iannucci and his team, it's easy to see why this movie remains such a beloved classic among fans of political satire and black comedies alike. Well, Thomas, I think it's clear from our discussion so far that while we may have differing opinions on certain aspects of In the Loop, there is no denying the talent and skill involved in crafting this film. The script is tightly written, with each character having their own distinct voice and motivations, which allows for some truly hilarious dialogue exchanges as well as moments of poignancy when needed. And Armando Iannucci's direction is nothing short of masterful. He manages to maintain a breakneck pace throughout the entire film while still ensuring that each scene feels fully fleshed out and nuanced.
Surely, Tim. I couldn't agree more with your assessment there. It's quite remarkable how well balanced In the Loop is in terms of its tone and pacing. It manages to be both hilarious and thought-provoking at the same time without ever feeling forced or contrived. And I think that speaks volumes about Armando Iannucci's skills as a director, not just in this film, but also throughout his career in television and filmmaking. His ability to create such fully realized characters and situations is truly remarkable.
Speaking of which, let's talk about some of our favorite scenes from In the Loop. Mine has got to be the dinner scene between Simon Foster and George Miller at Miller's home in Virginia. The tension between these two characters is palpable throughout the entire exchange. But what really elevates this scene for me is how seamlessly it weaves together humor and drama without ever feeling jarring or out of place. It's a true testament to Iannucci's skill as both writer and director that he could pull off such a complex sequence so effectively.
Oh, that's a great choice, Tim. My personal favorite scene from In the Loop is actually quite similar in tone and execution, the press conference where Simon Foster attempts to clear his name following his disastrous interview with Liza Weld. The way Iannucci stages this sequence is nothing short of brilliant. It starts off as a chaotic mess with everyone shouting over each other, but gradually evolves into something resembling order as characters like Malcolm Tucker and George Miller take control of the situation. And of course, there's James Gandolfini's iconic line, I gotta say. This is an unusual way to end a press conference, which never fails to make me laugh out loud every time I see it.
Indeed, Thomas, that scene really showcases how effectively the Loop blends humor and drama into its narrative without ever feeling forced or contrived. And I think that's what makes this film so enduring. It manages to strike a perfect balance between entertaining its audience and making them think about some of the more serious issues at play in both international politics and the media landscape as a whole. It truly is a masterclass in satirical storytelling, and one that I personally hold dear to my heart.
Absolutely, Tim. And speaking of its enduring legacy, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the significant cultural impact In the Loop has had since its release in 2009. Not only did it receive critical acclaim and multiple award nominations, but it also helped launch the careers of several actors and writers involved in the project. For example, Peter Capaldi went on to become the 12th Doctor, who, while Armando Iannucci himself has since directed 2 more feature films, The Death of Stalin and The Personal History of David Copperfield, both of which showcase his unique blend of dark humor and social commentary. But perhaps the most significant cultural impact In the Loop had was in popularizing political satire as a genre across various mediums, including film, television, and literature. In the years following its release, we've seen an influx of satirical content that draws inspiration from this movie, with shows like Veep and movies like The Big Short all owing a debt to Iannucci's innovative approach to the genre. And let's not forget about the countless memes and catchphrases that have spawned from this film, such as fuckity, bye, and it's a very British coup, which continue to resonate with audiences today.
Indeed, Tom. It really is amazing how much of an impact In the Loop has had on popular culture over the past decade or so. And it's not just restricted to political satire either. The film's depiction of office politics and power dynamics have resonated with viewers across all walks of life. I think part of what makes this movie so enduring is its universal themes of corruption, deceit, and the struggle for power, which are all too relatable in today's political climate. But perhaps more importantly, In the Loop serves as a reminder that satire can be an incredibly powerful tool for social commentary when done right. By holding up a mirror to our own society and exaggerating its flaws for comedic effect, we can often highlight issues that might otherwise go unnoticed or ignored. And in doing so, maybe we can inspire some much-needed change along the way.
Well said, Tim. And with that, I think it's safe to say that In the Loop is not only a brilliant piece of cinema, but also an important cultural touchstone that continues to resonate with audiences today. Its enduring popularity and influence serve as testament to Armando Iannucci's exceptional talent as both a writer and director, as well as the incredible performances delivered by the entire cast. It truly is a modern classic, and one that I believe will continue to be discussed, dissected, and enjoyed for many years to come.
And with that, Tom, I think it's safe to say that we've covered quite a bit about In the Loop, from its brilliant writing and acting to its cultural impact and universal themes. There's no denying this film's enduring legacy as a masterpiece of political satire. So before we wrap things up for today, I wanted to give our viewers a chance to chime in with their thoughts on the film. If they haven't seen it yet, what did they think of our discussion? Was there anything else you'd like us to touch upon? As always, we love hearing from our listeners and engaging with them about these topics. So don't be shy. Leave a comment below or join the conversation on social media using the hashtag Time and Tom's Film Nights.
Indeed, Timothy. And if you are one of those viewers who haven't yet had the pleasure of watching In the Loop, we highly recommend you do so. It's available on a variety of streaming platforms and is well worth your time. And remember to subscribe to our channel for more in-depth discussions about films, television shows, and all things pop culture related. We're always looking for new topics and perspectives to explore with our audience, so don't be afraid to suggest something you'd like us to cover in a future episode. Until next time, thank you for joining us on this journey through the world of entertainment.